Hello and welcome to the Wednesday, May the 11th edition of the Bottom Line Lexington podcast. Locally, more scuttlebutt over the Coach K, Coach Cal war of words throughout the media that has gone on this week. I did a little research, and this decade alone, Kentucky has more lottery picks than Duke by a score of 11-6. Kentucky has more first-round picks than Duke, 16-8. And if you look at recruits, and you know how I hate talking about recruiting on this show, but top 25 recruits, Coach Cal has got 22 top 25 recruits to go to Kentucky, while Coach K has gotten 10 top 25 recruits to go to Duke. All this says is this. Coach Cal came in, he changed the way college basketball was played. Not on the court, but off the court. The entire game of recruiting changed when Coach Cal got to Kentucky and realized that he could do it his way. The way nobody else had done it before, and the way nobody else can, because you don't have the resources like you do at Kentucky anywhere else. What can they offer these kids that Kentucky cannot offer these kids? Oh, you're set for life. Oh, you're doing this. Oh, you're doing that. But what they're doing is all these cliches, all this conjecture. But what Duke is doing is they're offering something different, because you have to be different to be noticed. That not only goes for college basketball. I've been on the air in Atlanta. I've been on the largest sports radio station in the 9th biggest market in America. I move home to Lexington, they won't give me a sniff at any of these stations. Although my resume is much better and my on-air examples are much better than pretty much anybody else in this town. But these people are scared to death of me. I did get to talk with one radio conglomerate in this town last year, and the guy tells me I'm the best host at Lexington right now. But they still didn't put me on the air because they're scared, because I'm so different. Heaven forbid someone have a differing opinion with factual data and historical data to back it up. People just don't like hearing the truth sometimes, and I tell the truth. I tell it like it is. And it scares people in this town to death. Whereas a transient town like Atlanta, people like it. It's how the game is played. Why should I go and just try to be just like everybody else when I can't be that guy? I can't be a Big Blue insider. I don't want to do that show. I can't do that show because it's not who I am. But you know what? Nobody else in this town can give you a show like this. I promise you that. They can't keep up. When I moved back here, I was on a station in this town, and I'm no longer there on the air because they couldn't keep up with me. Now they have the show they want, which is just talking about everything Kentucky. And when I say everything, women's basketball, softball, volleyball, good God, that's the most miserable stuff ever. Look, if I want to talk about UK softball and track and field, I'm not going to turn on my radio and in the first 5 minutes of the show want to hear about UK women's softball. No offense, I'm sorry. College sports, it's about football and men's basketball, and that's it. Now, if the women's basketball team has the drama and the soap opera like they have, yeah, I'll talk about it. But otherwise, I'm not. But it just goes to show you, Duke is trying to make a name for themselves in recruiting by being different than Kentucky. And that's how you win in life. You don't follow the rest of the cattle to the slaughterhouse. You be different. And when you are different, like Coach Cal has been at Kentucky, people really love you for it or they really hate you for it. And believe me, when I'm on the air in this town, people either really love me or really hate me. And that's okay, because that's part of the game. Bottom line, Duke's doing what they have to do to stay at the top of the game. I don't blame them for saying that you'll be set for life if you go to Duke. Because in a lot of ways, you can be. It's a better degree. You get a better education at Duke than you do at Kentucky. I'm sorry. But it reeks of desperation when Coach K for years wanted the 4-year player, and now he's going all in with the one-and-done guys. Know who you are. Be self-aware. Don't try to be somebody you're not. Other UK basketball news. Isaiah Briscoe, who is now projected as anywhere from the 80th to the 100th best player in the NBA draft coming up, and he's not even going to be able to participate in the NBA draft combine. CBSSports.com says that Isaiah Briscoe has a quote-unquote tough decision about whether to turn pro or go back to school. Well, it's obvious he's not going to get drafted, so you have to make a decision. Do you want to make a little bit of money playing D-League or playing over in Europe, or do you want to go back to Kentucky? Maybe you'll be stuck on the bench and you'll never play because of all these people they have coming in. Or maybe you'll get to play and you'll up your draft stock. And yeah, you'll make a little money at Kentucky. Personally, he's a fool if he leaves. And to be honest, so is Marcus Lee. But I think that horse is out of the barn. But Isaiah Briscoe saying it's a tough decision, It's not a tough decision at all. Get back to school, dude, because you're not going to get drafted. And I don't care who you are. If you're going in the first round, leave school. Not just Kentucky, any school. If you know you're going in the first round, you should go. No matter who you are, no matter what school you go to, you should go. But this kid's not going to get drafted. And I doubt he would even make an NBA D-League roster. It looks like if he goes pro, he's going to suffer the same fate that the Harrison twins suffered themselves, being irrelevant. In the Lexington Herald this morning, John Clay has a news and notes article, and the headline is, and I'm going to read this verbatim because the last time I did this, he got mad at me, but I'm going to read this verbatim. DeMarcus Cousins needs to change his coach-killing reputation. In other news, water is wet. Really? You're getting paid to write this stuff. Is that what you're telling me? Thank you again, Captain Obvious. That's the second time in 3 weeks I've called this dude Captain Obvious. This is Cousins' 6th coach in Sacramento since he left Kentucky. Vlade Divac, and by the way, it's amazing that the Marlboro man himself, Vlade Divac, is the general manager of any team in the NBA. It's a miracle. He came out and said, there's no way we're trading DeMarcus Cousins this year, which opened the door for next year because he's got 2 years left. But still, point is, how can you have a guy 4th in the NBA in points scored per game, 5th in the NBA in rebounds per game, and 11th in the NBA in efficiency rating, and nobody wants to coach him because he's a big jerk? That's why. I'd like to see this guy with the Spurs. What would Popovich do to this guy? UK football, the Courier-Journal has an article today, and the headline says, pressure on new UK defensive line starters. There's another Captain Obvious. In SEC games last year, UK allowed 34 more rushing yards per game. And overall, they allowed 45 more total yards per game in SEC games alone. Take 3 guys off the defense who were drafted in the last 2 years. Yeah, there's pressure on the defense all around because they haven't been able to stop anybody even when they've had some NFL caliber players on that defense. I've said all along this season relies on Drew Barker and Drew Barker alone because this defense has never proven it can stop anybody, and UK will have to put up points to win football games. Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh has come out and said one of his 26 satellite camps in the month of June will be held in Australia. All right, now we're getting a little ridiculous. But still, at least he's trying. At least he's getting out there, which is more than I can say for Stoops in Kentucky. Now, when I tweeted this out yesterday, why does Harbaugh have 26 satellite camps in UK? We don't hear of anything. I had someone reply to me on Twitter, and I will tell you the exact conversation, and if you want to see this for yourself, it's all on my Twitter page, @BottomLineLex. When I questioned on Twitter about Stoops' involvement in these satellite camps, I had a UK fan reply to me, well, he has several planned, actually. I go, really? Define several. Is that 26? And the man came back and replied to me saying, well, he's got one at Florida Atlantic, he's got one at a high school in Ohio, and he's got one at a high school in Michigan. I said, oh, so several means 3. Gotcha. Thanks for clearing that up. And then I also said, it just seems like a coach who's 4-20 in SEC games would try to work every angle he possibly could. The conversation ended there. It's amazing when you bring up the truth and bring up the facts and bring up data that backs up everything you say. It's amazing how when you bring that stuff up in an argument, people shut their mouths. You ever notice that? When you have the truth on your side, nobody can beat you. Horsey news. Nyquist has left Kentucky and now headed to Pimlico for the Preakness a week from Saturday. I love how all these people in the media around here were bragging about how they predicted Nyquist would win and how they got the first 3 horses right. It doesn't take any talent to pick the favorites. People don't understand that. When I pick my baseball games at the end of the show every day, who am I picking? Underdogs. People that you're getting value on out in Las Vegas. Nyquist went off at 2-1. Wow, congratulations on picking that winner. Why don't you pick Cleveland to win the Eastern Conference in the NBA while you're at it? All you conservative chalk pushers who then throw it in people's faces. I told you so. When the favorites win, that doesn't take skill or talent. Pick underdogs every day like I do. That's skill and talent. Speaking of underdogs, the Reds were rained out yesterday, thankfully for some. It was official now that Devin Mesoraco will miss the rest of this season, adding to the fact that he missed most of last season. And we have detailed this on this show before, but it bears repeating again. now that we know he's officially out. Devin Mesoraco, 106 plate appearances the last 2 years. 0 home runs, 3 RBIs, 158 batting average, 245 on base average. By the way, this guy was your opening day cleanup hitter last year. Last 2 years, he's brought home $7.55 million for 106 at-bats. The next 2 years, he's owed $20.45 million. Let's hope he gives you more than 106 at-bats. I was buzzing around the internet today, and I saw a fantasy expert saying, buy low on Billy Hamilton. He of the 236 average, 1 home run, 5 RBIs, and yes, 7 steals. Congratulations. And then I looked at the Cincinnati Enquirer, and there's an article on Billy Hamilton. Let's hope he keeps improving. Again, 236, 1 and 5, and 7 steals. Where is this keeping improving? People are talking like he's doing so well this year. His on-base percentage is 287 this year. His career on-base percentage, you guessed it, 287. Do you know what an average major leaguer compiles as an on-base percentage right now this season? 333. So Billy Hamilton, whose main offensive job should be just getting on base in any way, shape, or form possible, gets on base 46 points less than the average qualified major leaguer. And we hope he keeps improving? Sometimes, do people even look at numbers? Do these writers, and I'm calling out people from Lexington paper, Louisville paper, Cincinnati papers, do these people even look at numbers? I don't get it. Tonight, the Pirates and Reds will try to get their game in. The same pitchers will go. Juan Nicasio for the Pirates, 4.02. And our old pal, Alfredo Simon, 9.86 for the Reds. Pittsburgh 2 games over 500. Cincinnati 5 games under. Reds, though, 4-3 versus Pittsburgh this year. They've had 5 straight quality starts on this homestand. Can you believe that? Nicasio did win against the Reds on April 29th, going 7 innings, allowing 1 run. Pittsburgh about a minus 135 as I speak on Wednesday morning. Not a game I would touch. You have to go Reds if you go anybody, but I don't trust Alfredo Simon in this game. We had Simon last Thursday against the Brewers, and as we said yesterday, Pittsburgh's a little better than the Brewers. I do not touch in my book. NBA, Oklahoma City goes to San Antonio, gets out of there with a win. They're up 3-2 going back to Oklahoma City. I will tell you right now, this game 6, Oklahoma City against the Spurs, it is a franchise-defining game for both teams. If OKC wins, maybe they keep Durant in free agency. Maybe the entire Kevin Durant era isn't looked at as a total bust. If San Antonio wins, the Duncan, Parker, Ginobili triumvirate continues on. If the Spurs lose this game, game 6, does Duncan stick around? How many of those 3 guys stick around? Duncan, Parker, Ginobili. Are any of them back with the Spurs next year? Do they clear out that salary cap and give it to Durant himself? A franchise-defining game, game 6 in Oklahoma City between these two teams. And here's a stat for you. Popovich, great in the playoffs, right? Well, in elimination games on the road, Popovich, 2 wins, 10 losses. Something to think about in game 6. Steph Curry was named the unanimous MVP yesterday. We knew on Monday that he was MVP, but we did not know he would be the unanimous MVP. Here's my question. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had some crazy good years in the 70s. Wilt Chamberlain averaged 50 points a game one year. And those guys weren't unanimous MVPs? Something's wrong here. So you take the best player on the team that set the record for wins. I get it. Michael Jordan wasn't a unanimous MVP that year, that the Bulls won 72. Wow. Tracy McGrady came out yesterday and said the reason why Steph Curry is a unanimous MVP is because the NBA is watered down. I can't disagree with that. If you want to live in Steph Curry's house, it's up for sale, $3.8 million. No big deal. Speaking of the MVP voting, you'd think by now that the top 10 in the MVP voting would be filled with kids who went to school one year then went pro. Not so fast. 8 of the top 10 in MVP balloting played more than one season in college. Think about that for a minute. College football, the Big 12 desperately wants to get to actually 12 teams, which would make sense since they're actually called the Big 12. So they're looking for 2 teams to join their league so they can get that conference championship game so they can have a much better chance of making the college football playoff. So they're looking at Memphis and Houston as schools to join their conference. They've also been looking at Central Florida. There's a dumpster fire. They didn't win a game last year. And Colorado State. Really? That's the best you could do? I can't believe the Big 12 hasn't done this. I can't believe the Pac-12 for sure hasn't done this. Bring in BYU and UNLV. You'll never regret it. You could have your conference tournament in Las Vegas every year. You could have your conference championship game in Las Vegas every year, and everybody would be happy. BYU and UNLV are the two teams that either one of those conferences should get right now, but politics and religion will keep them from doing so. Speaking of college football, Johnny Manziel, who hasn't been good since he played in college, his house is up for sale. We talked about Steph Curry's for $3.8 million. Johnny Manziel's in Cleveland, $489,000. Something tells me you might want to do a walkthrough before you put your name on the bottom line on that house. Baseball, Cubs win last night. 25-6, winning percentage 806. Yeah, I saw that coming. Other end of the spectrum, my beloved Atlanta Braves, 7-24, but now 1-16 at home. I'd like to make it down there this summer for the last year at Turner Field. Something tells me I won't have to buy tickets in advance. They'll be so bad you can just walk right up, just like the good old days in the 80s. Aroldis Chapman got his first save last night for the Yankees in his second game for the team. His first game, he threw 7 pitches over 100 miles an hour, and last night he topped out at 102. Yeah, he hasn't lost a thing. And the Yankee fans love him. When he came out of the bullpen for the first game, he got a standing ovation. I think people forgot that he was suspended for 30 games because he shot his gun in the air 8 times and beat up his girlfriend, allegedly. Some people can get away with it, some people can't. Bryce Harper, still in the news. Still walking, apparently, every at-bat these days. Monday night, he gave the big FU to the umpire after his team had got a walk-off home run. Dusty Baker yesterday says he's a kid, says that Bryce Harper's a kid, and he'll have to spank him like he does his kids. Not trying to start anything here. What if Bryce Harper was a black player and Dusty Baker was a white manager? How much attention would that get in the social media world? Yeah. It'd be a lot more. We discussed yesterday Steven Strasburg's new contract and how he did not deserve anything close to what he got. Well, apparently Donald Trump, 4 years ago, tweeted out that when Strasburg leaves the Nationals for more money, the Nationals will regret shutting him down. And that's what they did late in the 2012 season. Coming off of his Tommy John surgery the previous year, they shut Strasburg down late in the year. They made the playoffs, but Strasburg was not going to pitch the playoffs because they shut him down. And then Trump said, yeah, shutting him down was stupid. Just more proof that Trump sticks his nose pretty much anywhere he wants to, and more often than not, he's wrong. Not saying I'm a Democrat, not saying I'm a Republican, just saying. UK fans will love to hear this. Little Richie Pitino is already in trouble at Minnesota. Apparently he has overspent his budget by 3 times over, mainly because of his use of a private plane, and then he uses rental cars and brings them back to the rental place on empty. Oh, how dare he. Of course, a lot of this came out after he had a player arrested last week for sexual misconduct. Bottom line is what we look at here. He's 14-22 in Big Ten games, including 2-16 last season. Another season like that, along with all these troubles, he'll be gone. And to think he almost took the Alabama job before he got the job at Minnesota. Roll Tide. You think they made the right choice with Avery Johnson over Richie Pitino? You betcha they did. NFL news, Marshawn Lynch is retired for now, allegedly. But the 90s band Smash Mouth, and you may remember their one hit, Hey Now You're an All-Star, I don't know. That's a long time ago when I was in Atlanta, and I really wasn't worried about pop music at that time. They came out and said, Marshawn Lynch does not deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. No. Can't say that on this podcast. Maybe one day I can. But who is Smash Mouth? They're certainly not going to make the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They've had one hit this entire century. That was in 2001 when they remade a Beatles song. Marshawn Lynch is not going to make the Hall of Fame no matter what Smash Mouth says. By the way, Smash Mouth sucked in the 90s too. What makes them so relevant now? This is the bottom line. We look at the numbers. Marshawn Lynch, 36 all-time rushing yards. Never led the league in any statistic other than he scored 17 touchdowns in 2014. Other than that, he was a good player, a really good player. But he is never a guy that I looked at and said, this is the best running back in the league. And he was never a guy that said, this is one of the best 3 running backs in the league. Not once. He'll be most remembered in my book for looking like a moron because in the Super Bowl against New England, he should have gotten the ball at the 1-yard line. They chose not to throw it. Now, I can sit here and give you reasons why Seattle wasn't really that dumb for throwing the ball in that situation. If you looked at how much time was left, how many timeouts they had, it actually made perfect sense to throw the football on second down. They just executed it poorly and got beaten by a good play that he had been coached to look for in that situation. That was all Belichick. But still, you have to wonder, 3 shots from the 1-yard line, could Lynch have gotten it in? Probably so. Then again, as a running back, do you have to be the best in the league to make the Hall of Fame? The last 2 Hall of Fame running backs that were inducted, Jerome Bettis and Curtis Martin, they both ended their careers in the top 5 in the NFL in all-time rushing yards. Were they guys that you ever looked at and said, that's the best running back in the league? Not even close. Still, no Hall of Fame for Marshawn Lynch. He's got to come back and play a few more years to even think about being considered. Danny Amendola is still with the Patriots, but he had to take a $4.4 million pay cut to do so. This is a guy who's played in the league for 8 years and scored 13 career touchdowns. He's already made $17.5 million in his career. So you can say, he's got enough money. He could take a $4 million pay cut. But 99% of the people in the NFL would be like, you're crazy. I'm not taking that kind of pay cut. But when you're in a position like Amendola is, you don't have to be happier than happy. It's like the old parable of the man who had such the great life, and then he wanted to build more barns to harvest more food and make more money, and then he never saw it because he died. There's no need to get happier than happy, especially when you're on a team that can win the Super Bowl. The ACC, proving that they are nothing other than a basketball conference, is talking about having their conference basketball season include 20 conference games. I'm all for it. ACC has always been about basketball. It'll never be about football, and it's to their detriment. Because if they focus on football, they could actually compete with the SEC. But they don't. They'd rather go basketball. Duke and North Carolina and Wake Forest and North Carolina State would rather win at basketball than football. Just like in the SEC, in the ACC, they're the holier-than-thou conference. They're the conference that says, we are the best basketball conference and all of you should take note of what we do. Whatever. Duke and North Carolina attitude. There's a high school in Texas that approved a new high school football field. The price of that field, $63 million. Just think about that for a minute. Public school, $63 million for a high school football field. Speaking of big money, Dana White and the UFC. Dana White bought the UFC with some other people for $2 million in 2001. Now they're looking to sell it for $4 billion. Now that's an investment. But as high as the UFC is, why would you want to get rid of it right now? I know $4 billion is a lot of money. Again, how much is too much? It never is. And I also see where Budweiser is changing their name this summer to America Beer. Instead of Budweiser beer, I want an America Beer. How lame can you get? And yet another marketing ploy. Why don't you do like Maker's Mark and put horsies and basketball coaches on the cover of your bottles so you can sell more stuff? The crazy collectors out there. I'll have another podcast on that Maker's Mark debacle and that scam that is, hopefully later this week. All right, Mac Daddy Stogie time. NBA tonight. Toronto, 4.5 over Miami. That series is tied 2-2. I won't touch that one. Be very interesting tonight, though with no Hassan Whiteside from Miami and the Toronto fans lying in wait for Dwayne Wade disrespecting the Canadian national anthem. Make sure to tune that game early. Portland, Golden State up 3-1. Golden State 12.5. The dream ends for Portland tonight. It's just a matter of how many points. I won't touch this game either. But Golden State surely on a collision course with Cleveland now in a rematch of the finals from last year. I don't think there's any suspense left, to be quite honest with you. We talked about Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. I won't touch that. I've got 2 picks for tonight in Major League Baseball. And we are on fire. We are 6-1 in our last 7 picks, all underdog winners, including last night's St. Louis Cardinals blowout of the Angels. So tonight, Arizona and Colorado. In Colorado, never a good idea to go against Colorado at Coors because anything can happen there, as we well know, in that mile-high air. Rob Ray will pitch for Arizona, 4.70. Chad Bettis for Colorado, 4.40. Arizona is the better team. They're 17-18. Colorado's 15-18. Colorado lost 4 of 5. Arizona on a 5-game winning streak. There's something I always look at is a sweep revenge situation. Back in April, Colorado went out to Arizona and swept Arizona 3 straight. You don't think Arizona remembers that? Of course they do. They want to go to Colorado and return the favor. They've got 2 of those 3 already. Tonight will complete the sweep. Give me Arizona plus 120, plus 125 over Colorado at Coors. Love that pick for tonight. One more, Tampa Bay at Seattle. Tampa Bay, 15-16, an underachiever so far. Seattle, an overachiever, 20-13. Chris Archer for the Rays, Taijuan Walker for the Mariners. You'd think Seattle being the much better team and being at home, you'd get a better number than plus 110, plus 115 on Tampa. But Chris Archer in his last 3 games, 18 innings, 0.96 ERA. Seattle blew out their entire bullpen last night to get that win, while Tampa's good closer and good bullpen setup guys all got a rest. Getaway day in Seattle. Give me Archer, the better pitcher, with a rested bullpen to take it to Seattle and get the upset win. So there you go. Arizona and Tampa, your Mac Daddy Stogies in Major League Baseball tonight. And that does it for the Wednesday, May the 11th edition of the Bottom Line Lexington podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Please feel free to tweet us at BottomLineLex. Follow us on Facebook, Bottom Line Lexington. Our website is bottomlinelexington.com, and please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Thanks again, and until next time, may the winners be yours.